guys? I actually spoken with Todd before, so it's good to see him in person. It's one of those things nowadays. We rarely interact with people with their true identity. Everyone's really apprehensive to share too much about themselves, and we often even want to put a facade in front of our real world identity. I've been in you could say I've been in the identity space for now 25 years. After university, I worked in the defense industry, in the intelligence space, and my role there was to build systems that would effectively characterize signals into actual people. I'm sure you've heard the news about how large-scale data collection systems were designed, created, deployed to aggregate data, to identify, and in the defense world, we call these assets. To identify, track, and capture, or even kill. I spent about 10 years in that industry building some really sophisticated, very large-scale solutions that would integrate everything from human intelligence to signal intelligence into what ended up being a single profile, what we would call an identity. And forward in time, 10 years, 2012, I started a pet business, and the reason we started that business, it was called PetNet, and it was in the IoT space, is because we wanted to effectively deliver personalized pet care to our pets, right? We always ask the questions like, "Oh, what should I feed my dog?" It's a question everyone asks. Your dog's gonna eat, your cat's gonna eat, and you end up asking a friend or asking a veterinarian. Or Googling something and ending up on a website that says, oh, grain-free is best, and this ingredient is bad for your dog. And it's interesting, none of these channels for answering questions take into account the qualities of your pet. For instance, I have a Shih Tzu, she's a 4-year-old Shih Tzu, and we used to live in Los Angeles, very dry environment. Sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot, but it's never humid. And when we moved to Miami, same dog, different care, right? Grooming changes, and all these qualities about our dog changed over time. She went from a puppy to an adult. Soon she'll be a senior, and her care will change. What's interesting is going from the very exclusive, tight-knit intelligence community to then what I would call the commercialized version of data collection, the IoT space, sort of a Trojan horse version of, hey, I'll provide you this capability in exchange. I'm going to get your latitude, longitude, and all your movement. Google is the master at this. They know when you're standing up, when you're sitting down. I see people laughing here. They know what I'm talking about. Data collection is the end game, and when it comes to data collection, the true value is not in the raw data, it's in the information. How do you translate raw data into actionable information? Forward in time, 20 years, and I've worked on several, I would say 5 products that have gone to market at large scale. I'm proud to say that this product, Petastic, is the first product my mom actually uses. Which is incredible to say because it's a crypto project and she doesn't even know, right? So whereas a lot of crypto projects, they tend to market themselves as crypto first, we try to market ourselves as affection first, right? We are here to fix an industry that is absolutely broken. And the reason it's broken is because it's never had a data infrastructure. Ironically, the industries that are sort of healthier and move more efficiently are the ones that have a really well-deployed data infrastructure. In the pet space, that doesn't exist. Give you an example. One of our investors is Nestle Purina, the second largest pet food company in the world. And I've known these folks for a decade now, and I remember them telling me, we have about 100 million customers, right? It's quite a bit. I said, oh, that's a lot. How do you know? He's like, well, do you know them? Do you communicate with them? Because Nestle sells through retail channels, so how do you know your customers? They're like, we don't know our customer. So how do you know you have 100 million? So just throughput. we sell $100 million worth of food, so we know we have, 100 million in terms of volume. And it just dawned on me, I'm like, wow, the reason you sell through retail channels is because you don't know who the pet owners are, which is why retailers exist. Retailers are like a community. You go in because you know the products and services that you need are in this space, right? And you forward in time now, this notion of identity for humans, people tend to be really scared of who is controlling your identity. And even when it comes to a decentralized network, to define who you are or to keep track of who you are in an instance or over time, don't gain much traction. But in the pet space, people are more than willing to provide all the information about their pet. In fact, I haven't even told you my name, but you know that I have a 4-year-old Shih Tzu, and that I lived in Los Angeles and now live in Miami. And that's what's interesting about the pet space. It's actually a window into the consumer. If you look at the pet industry worldwide, there's about 1 billion domesticated cats and dogs in the United States. It's neck to neck in terms of pet ownership with China, who has accelerated into pet ownership in the past decade. Everything has transitioned since flea and tick medicine. Ironically, flea and tick medicine allowed people to bring their pets into the home. Hence, your pets became family. And this is one of these nuances that has then transitioned into, well, I have 2 children. I have 2 daughters, but nowadays it's a lot more affordable to raise a dog than it is to raise a child. A lot more affordable. And you're seeing now in the United States, pet ownership has surpassed the age of the number of children under the age of 5 has been eclipsed by the number of pets in the United States, meaning more people are pet owners than they are parents of children. And that brings into play this industry that, as Sal mentioned, is often overlooked. It's the second largest consumer priced goods space. It's one that is preloaded with a tremendous amount of consumption. Almost everything you buy for your pet is consumed, whether it's input food or output pee pads. And everything in between is something that you buy month over month. And you can calculate the lifetime value of this industry. It's preloaded worldwide with about $5 trillion. This is guaranteed spend. Your dog, your cat is going to eat, and stuff's going to come out the other end. So it's one of those things where it's such a big industry but overlooked, and it's one that is missing an infrastructure. It's actually a very unfair and not very equitable space where you look at the funnel of intake for the industry. In the United States, most folks, they'll either adopt through a rescue or a shelter, or about 10% of them will purchase through a breeder. The rest of the world is breeder first. A lot of countries don't even have a shelter or rescue system, but nonetheless, in the United States, you're looking at an industry where the market makers, the shelters, the rescues, the fosters, these people who are putting their love and affection out there to care for these animals, create a huge market, and they get nothing for it. In fact, it's one of I can't think of any other industry where the market makers get nothing out of it. And this is sort of sad because a lot of these folks work at a loss, so they spend a lot of their time fundraising. And because this idea of having a digital infrastructure to identify animals doesn't exist, these folks have been exploited, taken advantage of, right? Because there are some very large corporations out there that benefit from the fact that these new parents are entering the market, et cetera. So what we've created with Petastic and is a protocol that helps incentivize the folks who are contributing to the ecosystem. shelters, rescues are contributing to the ecosystem. They're helping find homes for these pets, but they're also doing something very quietly. They're actually enabling these pet IDs, right? Every pet that enters the market creates a pet ID, and this pet ID, think of it as a diary that gets populated over time. So whereas you were a puppy today, you're an adult tomorrow, and everything that happens in between, including your purchase history, including your social graph. In fact, we just recently launched, and it surprised me even, and I've been in the pet space for over a decade now, that by the time you adopt your dog or purchase your dog, anywhere from 5 to 10 people have care for that animal before you even took it home. You think of like, oh, I just got it from the shelter, but there's fosters involved. There's all these folks who are interacting with this pet before it happens, and all that's important for various reasons. One, it determines the behavior of your pet when you have it home, but it also, you come to the realization that every person that is caring for that animal is spending money. In fact, when your pet is inside of a shelter or a rescue, the spend is about $150 per month per pet to care for that animal. And that's not much different than it is from after you take that pet home, you purchase or adopt it. So it's a very unique quality about the pet industry that at every layer of the sales funnel, you're actually generating revenue. So back in November of last year, we deployed the first version of Petastic, which again is there to create this community-owned identity infrastructure where everyone involved in every pet's life is going to benefit. And we started with the top of the funnel, the shelters, the rescues, and we told them a very simple value proposition, sticking to Todd Healy's messaging. We don't use the word crypto, we use the word rewards. And we solved a very important problem for them in fundraising. So we said, hey, let's take all the pets that you have available and create a digital identity for them. In exchange, that pet who's going to generate revenue for about 10 years, we're going to enable it so that you can gain from that revenue that pet is creating. So whereas in the current space, in the non-ecosystem crypto space, a shelter will find a home for a pet and gain nothing out of it, meaning they receive no revenue for that pet. In fact, they're actually just losing money every time a pet gets adopted or purchased. In this space, they're actually enabling a revenue stream that'll last for years. So if you look at a shelter that is going to find home for 500 pets per year, you're now creating this perpetual revenue stream where they're receiving a feedback loop into the efforts that they've created. And that is one of the pieces that is fixed, that we fix with Petastic that is currently broken. And what that allows us to do is create this, in effect, Trojan horse into the industry where we create a very sticky situation at the top of the funnel, allowing us to really control the future of pet care. And because we're tracking the life of this animal, even the change of ownership from a shelter to then someone's home, the network itself is the first entity in this ecosystem, this real-world ecosystem that knows when a new pet owner comes online. So when you look at our competitors, and we look at our competitors like corporations like Chewy, Petco, PetSmart, there's versions of this all over the world. They work on the discovery basis, meaning you have to find them. In our world, the network actually finds you. And what that allows us to do is to cut off Chewy, Petco, PetSmart before they even become a customer with them. So our network actually notifies the pet owner and says, hey, congratulations on your new adoption. Here's the food that they were eating at the shelter or breeder. Would you like us to ship it to you? And that happens a second after the transfer of ownership from the shelter or the breeder to the new owner. So this notion of identity allows this real-world marketplace to exist, and the real-world marketplace that benefits the whole ecosystem, the whole community, from the people who are helping find homes for these pets to the actual parents. And it tracks the consumer in a way that is very passive. Whereas if you were to ask me, do you want to be tracked? I would say, oh, I don't really want to be tracked. But if you look at it from the perspective of, do you want us to track the life of your pets so we can provide it the right products and services at the right moment in their age and stage of life? Everyone says yes. In fact, so far, every shelter we've onboarded has said yes to our value proposition. No one has said no yet, because we're fixing a real world problem. So taking a step back, this idea of a marketplace to combat our competitors who look like traditional corporations is a very powerful concept, because the pet space is just a natural ecosystem. It's already an ecosystem in that people are already functioning as a commune, as a community, and creating this network is just a perfect fit. So looking at scale, our goal with Petastic and the underlying protocol is to allow not just Petastic to grow and compete with these retailers, but also to allow other projects to utilize this community-owned infrastructure and utilize its token to create other projects. And to that, I always get pitched. I get pitched often. One is pet heaven. So being able to memorialize your pet from the current physical world to pet heaven is one of those things where you end up with perpetual utility of this asset, this identity that is holding your pet's data and that could live forever. And another is a dating app. So being able to match like-minded folks with others. So I'll leave it at that. Just from a perspective of the ability to scale quickly, the ability to penetrate a market that has been trained to be apprehensive and guarded about their identity. Petastic is a window through that. And it's a very, very unique position that we're in, and being able to serve the very large community. Any questions?
How exactly are you rewarding, I'm assuming you have a token to the shelters and whatnot?
So the token mechanics for the project are around data. So shelters, pet owners, they're all compensated for being data providers. Exactly. So as they provide data about their pet anonymously, the network returns the favor by compensating with rewards that are underwritten by tokens. It also delivers personalized pet care. So the more we know about your pet, the more we can deliver personalized pet care to them. The other parts of the network are there to validate. They're also compensated. And then we have data consumers. Data consumers are the brands, the products and service companies that are trying to service each one of these pets. So that's. We have not, but we intend it to look like at scale, like combination of Rover, a combination of Etsy, combination of Chewy. So we want to be able to connect product and services, whether it's digital or physical product, to the pet parents.
There's,
Yeah. Yeah, there's a huge. We've counted over 200,000 brands in the U.S. alone that serve the space, and that's us just briefly kind of counting from the top. So there's a lot of opportunity to connect the community as a whole. Yes.
How many dogs are already signed up, and what is the benefit, and how much have these shelters received from this?
So we have about 1.2 million cats and dogs registered. These cats and dogs are available for adoption or purchase. So we start way at the top of the funnel. The benefit for those pets being registered are rewards that the shelters can use to subsidize the cost of that pet's care. So those rewards are then used to buy pet food, buy microchips. Pretty soon here will be to buy pet insurance. So we're effectively creating a system where all the economy is contained for the folks caring for their animals. So the rewards they earn, they immediately utilize back into the system. That's separate than the trading of token, which will happen in the future. But for For the most part, the community is enclosed from within. It's completely closed.
What kind of revenue, I think, is what
Yeah,
they
yeah,
asked.
what is the amount that?
Oh, sure, sure.
Are they really able to, the shelters able to sustain themselves on this?
Over time, they will be. So we're basically providing a 5% credit for every dollar you spend on the system, because it's a marketplace where you're effectively buying supplies. 5% goes back to the shelter, and that 5% over time, if you look at how much that pet is spending over time, $100, $150 over 10, 15 years, that's what feeds the loop. So it's still early. We're looking at month 9 now of this, but some shelters have earned over $3,000, some have earned a few $100s. So it just depends on size and scale.
Are you getting all the data from like Pet Finder and all?
That's right.
different-
Yeah, so Nestle,
Pet, like, is all that data within this?
that's correct, yeah. So that's where we started. Pet Finder is one of our partners. Nestle owns Pet Finder. So that we start at the top of the funnel with identities that are already out there. A lot of these shelters, they promote their pets on different channels. Pet Finder, Adopt a Pet are two of the largest ones. But we start there. And the difference between those websites and ours is that we provide rewards back to the shelters. But it's also interesting because Nestle acquired Pet Finder with the intent of being able to track a pet. But what happens is they have an absolute blind spot because they're not able to track change of ownership. So Pet Finder is really just a marketing site for pets that are available. We add capability to Pet Finder in that we're also able to track the change of ownership, and that data can be utilized by Nestle to find their ideal customer. So that's the power of the open network. Cool.
Thanks, Carlos. And to jump onto one question around like sustainability of the shelters, one thing I didn't realize is that they are already on the treadmill of unsustainability. Like half of their capital is from fundraising, so they're always like on the treadmill of just like fundraising. And this is like, instead of maybe 50% of your time, it's 20% or something like that.